My name is Eleanor Vance. I'm 38 years old, and I'm a senior financial analyst for a major investment firm. The air in my mother's living room was thick with the smell of overcooked pot roast and a tension I knew all too well. My brother, Leo, leaned back in his armchair, a smug grin plastered across his face as he recounted some trivial victory at his dead-end job. My sister, Clara, sat beside him, nodding along, her eyes already on me, calculating. They were discussing their vision for the old family lake house, a dilapidated property our grandfather had left us, which they now wanted to turn into a luxury rental. They needed a significant capital injection, of course. "Ellie, you're our golden goose," Leo chuckled, nudging Clara. She laughed, a sharp, brittle sound, and then, looking straight at me, added, "Honestly, what would we do without our wallet?" The words hung in the air, dripping with casual contempt, followed by another round of their shared, knowing laughter. My stomach clenched, a familiar knot of shame and fury tightening within me, but I forced a thin, neutral smile, my eyes fixed on the chipped rim of my coffee cup. They didn't see the flicker in my gaze, the quiet click of a door closing inside me. They wouldn't laugh for long. Their future, the one they so confidently expected me to build for them, was about to vanish right along with me. To understand why I sat there, absorbing their casual cruelty, you need to know our history. I was the eldest, the responsible one, a label that had quietly morphed into the provider over the years. My parents, bless their hearts, were loving but financially feckless. They believed in the power of positive thinking more than balanced budgets. Leo, 2 years my junior, had always been charmingly irresponsible, drifting from one get-rich-quick scheme to another. Clara, 5 years younger, was a master of passive aggression and cultivated helplessness, always needing a little boost to get her dreams off the ground. From the moment I landed my first real job after college, the request started. It began innocently enough, helping Leo with rent, covering Clara's tuition shortfall, bailing out my parents when their car broke down. I didn't mind. I made good money, and I loved my family. I wanted to help. But the requests grew, becoming demands, then expectations. My annual bonus wasn't just my bonus, it was the family fund for emergencies, which often turned out to be Leo's new gaming console or Clara's designer handbag. I tried to set boundaries once, suggesting they create their own savings plans. Leo laughed, "Why bother, Ellie? You're so good at it." Clara added, "It's just easier this way. You're practically a bank." The words stung, but I told myself they were just joking, that they appreciated me, even if they had a strange way of showing it. The lake house project was the latest, and by far the largest, of their grand schemes. Our grandfather had left it to the three of us equally, but it was a money pit. Leo and Clara saw only its potential as a cash cow, a way to fund their lavish lifestyles without actual work. They had no savings, no credit, no practical skills for renovation or business management. So, naturally, they expected me to front the entire renovation cost, manage the contractors, and even handle the marketing. "You're the finance whiz, Ellie," Clara had cooed, "and you're so organized. We'd just mess it up." They had even drawn up a rudimentary business plan, a collection of glossy magazine cutouts and vague projections, which they presented to me with great fanfare, complete with a projected return on investment that was pure fantasy. I had pointed out the glaring holes, the unrealistic timelines, the lack of a contingency budget. Their response? More laughter. "You worry too much, Ellie. Just write the check. We'll handle the fun stuff." What I didn't understand yet was just how deep their entitlement ran, or how little they actually respected me. I was a means to an end, a resource to be tapped. The turning point began subtly, with a series of small, almost imperceptible shifts in their behavior. Clara started leaving her business plan documents on my kitchen counter during our Sunday dinners, open to the page detailing the projected profits, as if to subtly remind me of what I was holding up. Leo would call me late at night, not to chat, but to bounce ideas off me, which always ended with him asking if I'd looked into those loan options for the lake house yet. My suggestions for them to contribute, even a small amount, were met with eye rolls and sighs. "We're busy," Ellie, Leo would say. You have the time and the money. Then came the incident with Mom's medical bills. She had a minor procedure, and for once, I told Leo and Clara that they needed to contribute. It wasn't a huge sum, but I wanted them to feel some responsibility. Leo exploded, calling me selfish and heartless. Clara, meanwhile, started crying, claiming I was punishing them. You make so much money, Eleanor, she sobbed. Why are you being so difficult? My mother, caught in the middle, just wrung her hands and said, Oh, honey, they just need a little help. You know how they are. It was then, watching my mother enable their behavior, that the bitter taste of reality truly settled in. They didn't see me as a sister, a daughter, or even a person with my own needs. I was a utility. The final straw, the one that broke something fundamental inside me, happened just a few weeks before the pot roast dinner. I had spent countless hours researching contractors for the lake house, vetting bids, and negotiating prices, all on my own time. I'd found a fantastic team, reputable and within a realistic budget. When I presented my findings to Leo and Clara, they barely glanced at the spreadsheets. No, Ellie, Leo waved his hand dismissively. We've decided to go with Marco. He's a friend of a friend. Marco, it turned out, was a shady character with a history of unfinished jobs and inflated prices. I tried to explain the risks, the potential for disaster. Clara just smiled sweetly. Oh, but Marco promised us a family discount. And he says he can start next week, no questions asked. You're always so cautious, Ellie. Sometimes you just have to trust people. They wanted me to sign off on a loan for Marco's exorbitant quote, effectively putting my own assets at risk for their ill-advised friend. That was when the numbers stopped looking accidental, and started looking like outright exploitation. I went home that night and stared at the framed photo of us 3 kids on my desk. We were maybe 7, 5, and 2, grinning gap-toothed at the camera, arms around each other. It was a symbol of the family I had always tried to protect, to provide for. Now, it felt like a mocking reminder of their expectations. My role as a financial analyst, which had always been a source of pride, suddenly felt like a cage. I was good at seeing patterns, at predicting outcomes. And the pattern I saw now was clear: I was being bled dry, and they would never stop until there was nothing left. Their future wasn't a shared dream, it was a parasitic growth attached to my own. That night, I started preparing. I didn't rage, I didn't confront them. I simply began to untangle myself, meticulously and quietly, just as I would untangle a complex financial portfolio. First, I reviewed all the joint accounts, the family funds, I had set up over the years. I moved my personal savings to a new bank, one with no shared history or access. I changed the beneficiaries on my life insurance and retirement accounts. I consulted with a lawyer, not to sue them, but to understand my legal obligations regarding the lake house and any shared assets. The lawyer confirmed what I suspected: because I was the only one with significant capital or credit, I was the one taking all the risk. My siblings, while legally co-owners of the property, had no actual skin in the game. I could, legally, refuse to fund the renovation without consequence to myself, beyond their inevitable anger. I also found a new apartment, a small, quiet place across town, and started moving my most important belongings in secret. I didn't want a confrontation, I wanted a clean break. The thought of their reaction, the inevitable accusations and tears, was daunting, but the image of their laughing faces, calling me their wallet, fueled my resolve. I decided to send them an email, a formal, professional one, detailing my decision regarding the lake house and my intent to step back from all financial involvement. But I needed to deliver the news in person, one last time, to see their faces when their wallet finally closed. Which brings us back to the pot roast dinner. Their laughter, their casual dismissal of my worth beyond my bank account, was the final confirmation I needed. My smile might have been thin, but inside, I was already gone. After they finished their dessert, still chattering about their grand plans for the lake house, I cleared my throat. I have something to tell you all, I said, my voice calm, steady. regarding the lake house, and frankly, all future financial involvement. Leo stopped mid-sentence, a forkful of cake hovering near his mouth. Clara's smile faltered. My mother looked at me with a worried frown. I've decided to withdraw my support for the renovation project, I stated, looking directly at Leo and Clara. And I will no longer be acting as the family's financial manager or lender. The silence that followed was deafening. Leo's fork clattered onto his plate. Clara's eyes widened, a flicker of genuine shock replacing her usual calculated sweetness. What are you talking about, Ellie? Leo finally managed, his voice rising. You can't just do that. We've made plans. Our future depends on this. Your future, I corrected him, is not my responsibility. You called me your wallet Earl. And you're right. That's how you've treated me for years. But a wallet isn't a person. A wallet doesn't have feelings, or dreams, or boundaries. And this wallet is now closed. I pushed back my chair and stood up. I've already informed my lawyer that I won't be signing any loan documents for the lake house. And I've transferred all my personal funds out of any joint accounts. Effective immediately, I'm stepping away. The explosion was immediate and predictable. Leo launched into a furious tirade, calling me a traitor and selfish. Clara burst into tears, accusing me of ruining her life. My mother, true to form, tried to mediate. Eleanor, honey, please, think about what you're doing. But I just shook my head. I have thought about it. For a very long time. I walked to the door, my heart pounding, but my resolve unshaken. The lake house is still yours to do with as you wish. Just not with my money, or my time, or my emotional energy. I moved out completely that night, turning off my phone for 24 hours. When I finally switched it back on, the flood of angry texts and voicemails was overwhelming. Accusations, threats, pleas, guilt trips, a perfect storm of their manipulative tactics. I blocked their numbers, one by one. I changed my email. I sent a final, brief message to my mother, explaining that I loved her, but I needed space and would contact her when I was ready. The consequences for Leo and Clara were swift. Without my financial backing, Marco, the shady contractor, vanished. Their grand plans for the lake house crumbled. They couldn't secure a loan on their own. The property, which they had envisioned as their golden ticket, became a source of endless arguments between them. I heard snippets through a mutual cousin. Clara had to get a second job. Leo was still living with my mother, complaining bitterly about Eleanor's betrayal. Their future, the one they had so confidently built on my back, had indeed vanished. It's been 6 months now. I still have the old framed photo of us three on my desk, but it doesn't sting anymore. It's a reminder, not of what I lost, but of what I gained, my own future, finally unburdened. The laughter still echoes sometimes, but now, it's just a fading memory of a voice I no longer have to answer.